Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. This is Entertainment Thursday. Thank you for staying tuned. And now, right now, I am joined by a beautiful lady that I am going to allow introduce herself so that I don't get to sell her short.
Okay.
Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. Kindly introduce yourself to us.
Thank you, Vivian. My name is Heather Maxwell. I am American. I come from Washington, D.C.
You didn't tell us what you do.
I am a music presenter, a host, and a producer for the Voice of America. I have a radio and TV program called Music Time in Africa, and it features Pan-African music. Even though I'm American, I love African music, and I have for decades now. So that's what I do most of the time. Got either headphones on, or I'm making music, or I am in front of a camera, like right now.
So this is not new to you. I mean, you've been doing this for years as well. You've been a broadcaster for years. But there's something you mentioned that you really, really love African music. And it is evident because your show on Voice of America it's an African music show. It's, Music Time in Africa. And then you've also worked with a number of Africans. I mean, we've just watched you with Winyo, our very own Winyo, from right there in the country. What is it about African music that really just sets it on for you?
Well, I've been doing it so long, I can't even tell you now. It's just part of my life. But when I first encountered African music, I was in college, and I was studying opera at that time. But I was curious about music from all over the world. And this was a long time ago, where we didn't have all of the internet and all of that we do now. So people's music from different parts of the world were not very accessible to each other. So I went to Africa because I liked that music. I wanted to see what the people were behind the music. And I really liked West African music in the beginning. But now, of course, it's been decades, so I love all kinds of African music and all kinds of genres. I like pop, I like hip-hop, I like gengetone.
Oh, you do know about gengetone. Give me a high five for that.
I like it all.
I didn't think you know gengetone.
I like it.
When did you know about gengetone? I'm curious to know. Is it that when you've just come, you were told about it, or
no,
it's a genre that you've known? Because it's quite a new genre.
Yeah.
Gengetone in specific. Genge has been there, but gengetone is quite a new genre. It started off in, I think, 2020, thereabouts.
Right.
So when did you get to know about it?
It was probably about then, because part of my job is to always stay on top of the new things coming out from all over the continent. And gengetone came out with, I don't know, a song a few years ago. I can't remember what it was, but it was so catchy.
Wamlambes.
What?
Was it that one?
Which one?
Wamlambes.
No, but it had Meji, isn't he? Meja, who is, I know now, like the pioneer, I think, of that genre.
Or not one really of gengetone, but Meja had been there. He's one of the pioneers of genge music.
Oh, genge music.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember the name of the song, but the point is, I like all kinds of music. Kenyan, South African, North African, Central, West. Yeah. When
you first experienced gengetone, now that you've mentioned that, I'm quite intrigued. I have to ask. When you first experienced gengetone, like what came to your mind when you listened to gengetone for the very first time? When you experienced it?
It just seemed very authentic and not overly produced, not overly thought through, just a fresh voice from the ground up. That's what I thought of.
I hear you. I get that. You've worked with Winyo, as I just mentioned.
Yes.
How did you get to meet up with Winyo, and how did you guys decide, let's work on a song? Tell me about how that came about.
Well, last time I was in Kenya, the one and only other time, was 8 years ago. And I was working with Ketable Music, and because they have some interesting academic side to Kenyan and East African music. And they introduced me to several artists, including Winyo. And he was playing guitar, and I was interviewing him, but I was like, God, that's so pretty. And I just started humming along with one of his songs, and Tabu and the others around said, hey, you guys should do something together. Do you have any time? The studio was right there. And I said, yeah, let's do it tomorrow night or whenever. And so we did. We just sat together, and I think you've already aired it with he and I in that studio earlier. I think we saw it. And that's what it was. And guess what? I was at the Go Down Center last night with Taboo, some of these same people.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see Wino tonight. And we're going to try another song.
You're going to do another collaboration?
We're going to do another collaboration in the studio. So I don't know how
it's excited about that.
I am, but
are you planning on working with any other Kenyan artists now that you are in the country? I know that you will be here for just a few days.
Yeah.
But are you maybe planning on working with any other artists from Kenya?
It hasn't come up, and I don't think I'm going to have time. Even this one with Wino was kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing. I would love to, though. There are so many artists.
Who do you listen to here? You've mentioned, of course, you listen to Wino, and you've mentioned Major.
Oh, yeah.
So who else do you listen to?
You know, one of my favorites, of course, is Sauti Sol. And their solo careers, all of their solo careers. Nikita Kering, I like. Actually, I'm interviewing her later on today on my platform. Muthoni, the drummer queen. I'm also going to interview her. I like her. I like what she does musically, and also what she does with that wine festival.
Blankets and Wine.
Blankets and Wine.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest festivals here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to them right now. Who else? I mean, there are so many. I work a lot with Bill Odidi. He does a lot of features on Kenyan music for my radio show.
Bill Odidi is my colleague because he works for the corporation.
Hi, Bill. I'll see you later. Later today. Yeah, just so many. I actually can't even think of how many different Kenyan musicians.
All right. I mean, you've mentioned quite a number of them. I want to put you on to one artist that okay, let me give you two female artists. I love to support female artists. So two really good female artists that I think you should listen to: Zenia Manasseh, Karun. Listen to Karun and Zenia Manasseh.
Awesome.
You love them.
Okay.
I'm sure you love them.
Okay.
All right. You have worked with numerous artists across the world and Africa mainly. What would you say are the trends in music that you have witnessed in your career?
In my career, wow. Well, I don't want to say how old I am, but it's gone back some decades now. When I first started even just listening to African music, this was like in the 90s. I was living in Mali, and it was all Congolese rumba. Then after that, it was Nigerian Afro beats kind of started coming up. Now, of course, I'm a piano, but then there was Kwaito, you know, South African, seemed to compete a lot with Congolese rumba. Congolese rumba kind of faded out and went into something different. But I think Congo has their own, they have their own world of music. You can't even pierce it. It's just its own thing.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard actually to even talk about African music as a whole, because you have North Africa, which has its own thing, Southern Africa, West Africa, East, Central, well, there's Congo. But the most recent trend, of course, is Amapiano that came out of South Africa, but now it's so easy to produce and put it on everybody else's music.
Yeah, everyone is using
Everyone's
it.
using it, but I love it.
It's beautiful.
I do.
Yeah,
I'm wondering how I could put Amapiano beat onto a classic jazz song, but I haven't explored that.
You
yet.
should try. You should try explore that. You know, I'm sure it would come out.
It might.
A certain kind of way, but in a good way.
Yeah.
A good way.
Maybe I'll work on it.
Are there any similarities that maybe you could point out for us that you've witnessed or seen in artists? Do they have maybe some kind of similarity that just you are able to pick? Yeah, that you're able to pick out.
No, I can't, because they're all too different. You know, you have traditional musicians, you have live band, you know, people that sing with live bands, and then you have recording artists that are super great in the studio, but when they get on stage, oftentimes they're actually not. That's one thing I think we could all work on, not just African artists, but younger generations of artists who are really great in the studio, and they can make super great recordings. But then when they get on stage, they don't know even what to do, and they lose a lot of people that way, especially for an international audience. So, you know, choreography, stuff like that, costuming, makeup, all that should be kind of worked a lot for the stage. But African artists really continue to impress me now. Younger artists are very versatile. And you know, now African music is really piercing into the American market a lot.
It has, actually.
It's so, and it's also amazing.
Afrobeat specifically.
Oh yes, Afrobeat specifically. But it's also amazing to see the sort of recycling, you know, where you have diasporans who are bringing stuff back, but also taking what's fresh from here and recycling it there. And it's just this beautiful, it's the way the world works anyway. I always like music because you can look at music and see how the world works, you know, and that's the way it is now. It's just becoming a smaller world, and everything is, you know, everything is influencing everything else.
Yeah.
Oh.
You have a PhD, we have to mention this, you know, you have a PhD in, that term for me is quite new and it's quite difficult, so if you may just say it for me. Oh,
it's ethnomusicology.
Ethnomusicology, yeah. What is it all about?
Okay, it was a discipline that started in the 1950s. So, and it's a small discipline. It can be either considered an offshoot of music study, music performance, or even academic study of music. And then on the other side of cultural anthropology or social anthropology. So you take the two and combine them to try to understand more of what's deeper meaning of music, and underneath that reveal more about the people that make it as a community, as a country, as a culture, gender. There's all different ways you can look at groups of people and how music can reveal things about them. So that's really what this study is. And I was really, as I said, and we said, fascinated with African music. And so I dug into the music of Mali in West Africa. And that's when I wrote my master's, my PhD on some instruments and singers from there and what that meant. And
yeah, I'm curious to know, you must have a really, really deep love for music. I mean, if you went on to, you know, get a PhD on that. Well, you've mentioned Mali. That's where you really got to study the behaviors and that's where you wrote your
my master's and my dissertation.
Yes. So how is the entertainment industry in Mali for someone who, for like myself, who's not really tried to look into that industry over there in that country as much? How would you tell me that industry is, and maybe how different is it from the rest of Africa, or the little you know from right here in Kenya, or the much that you know from here?
Well, you know, it's been a while since I've lived in Mali. I went back in 2012. And that already was a long time ago. That was 10, 11, no, how many years was that?
12. 12
Yeah,
years
it's a long time ago. But the music industry there was not as robust as it is in, definitely not as in the Anglophone or even other Francophone West African countries that are more developed anyway in a lot of ways. Like Côte d'Ivoire. I spent a year in Côte d'Ivoire. They still have a great music scene. Nigeria, of course, we don't even need to talk about that. Ghana is pretty good. South Africa, of course, East Africa. But in Mali, it's not quite as developed. So, and I really didn't focus on the music industry as much as cultural music, which is really what people love a lot there. I speak Bambara.
Well, and I didn't get anything.
I know. I just thought I'd throw that out there. But that's one of the things I learned too. If you want to study music or anything about a place, you really need to spend time there, and you need to at least speak the language there. So I studied for a couple of years this language, Bambara, and French too. And that was what enabled me to really get underneath that. But sadly now, Mali, the music industry is not going so well now because of all the political problems there.
There's something you've said. You've said you really studied into the cultural music and not the entertainment industry. So those are two different things. The entertainment industry is not the same thing as cultural music?
It can be. But I mean, when you think of entertainment industry, that is the showbiz. It's for the cameras and 3-minute songs so that it can stream on, you know, Boomplay or Apple or whatever, and you're making money from streaming, and you're using electronic music and the image, and you have a brand. All that's industry. Cultural music is really more just what people do to carry on a tradition, a family, to perform it in small groups, usually acoustic music, I find it very beautiful and heartwarming and touching. So I think there is a difference there.
Yeah, I get that. I get that difference.
Yeah.
Now, Music Time in Africa, which is the show that you host on Voice of America Radio and Voice of America Television, how would you say that has promoted African music? Because it's entirely African music. That's all you listen to. That's all you talk about. Those are the musicians that you bring to the show. How has that promoted African musicians, according to you?
Well, it promotes African musicians here on the continent because it's coming from America, and because I have this specialty, I kind of vet who I choose to be on the show, who I would talk about. I have a playlist that I listen to. It's not Spotify, you know. I play some songs that are trending, but then I also play artists that I think are super great that may not have the break yet, or that are really young and haven't had the chance yet. So I think it helps them. And, you know, nowadays, too, I'm actually including some more American music because I've found, over even the 10, 11 years I've been doing this, that because the world is moving the way it is, Africans are really doing well and progressing quite well in the music industry. For yourselves, you don't really need us as much, meaning the American hand in you guys doing your music business. You're doing a really great job. So I've decided, you know, we got to change, keep up with the times. So I'm now incorporating American music as well that I think Africans will appreciate and like, and diaspora music to highlight the American experience of Africans here. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. As we finish with this interview, I want you to tell me about Access, which is an event that you're going to attend and I think present at in Tanzania.
Yeah.
Tell me about
Access is the biggest Pan-African music conference and showcase. And it's wonderful because it's Pan-African. So that's a point, case in point, what I was saying earlier. It's Africans, you know, creating their own, helping each other build their own music industry. And so we have all kinds of experts. And I'm coming with my colleague Roger Muntu, who has the Roger Muntu Show. He broadcasts from Voice of America in French. And he and I both are presenting our shows at the conference just to have people aware of what we do. And I'm also interviewing Sho Majozi. Do you know Sho?
Of course. Who doesn't know Sho Majozi? If you're African and you don't know Sho Majozi, you don't really support African music.
Yeah, so I'll be presenting her, and that's I'm really looking forward to that. And then I'm also giving a concert at the Alliance Française in Dar es Salaam.
Oh, in Dar es Salaam. I thought it was the Alliance Française right here in Nairobi.
No. Yeah, in Dar.
All right. Thank you so much for coming to the show. It was a pleasure hosting you. Maybe if you have a parting shot as we finish.
Thank you, Vivian. Well, listen, it was a pleasure to be here with Vivian and to be speaking to all of you in Kenya directly. It's wonderful to be back in your country, and I hope you continue to follow me, social media, Heather Maxwell, Music Time in Africa on Voice of America.
All right. Unique, which song are you playing right now? I want her to bust a little bit of moves as we finish, as we...
What?
Malado.
Malado.
Okay, just play it.